Yeah, no. Let me know if you move.
All right. We have mics on, Officer Lostrom.
If your mic is red, it is a hot mic.
Okay.
Hold on one second, Jeff. Sorry.
No problem. Take a minute.
Start the, gotta push the record button.
We'll have some applesauce instead.
I think
Yeah, these are on, so don't make any comments about elections and stuff like that. Oh, those, okay.
yeah.
Which one? That's not working for
No,
you?
well, I'm not seeing it. Is it?
You just go like this.
There
and
it is.
You go down with your, like that.
Just waiting for this to
Oh,
start.
there it was. Okay.
Welcome to the late 90s.
I don't use that wheel on my one at home. I just,
I know. I did the same thing.
yeah.
I'm not very computer literate.
There's those days. Mine are 35 and 28. I still have to do that though.
It's time to go skiing.
Okay, you're good to go.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. This is the regular meeting of the Redondo Beach Public Safety Commission. Let's start with roll call, and I'll hit the gavel once.
Commissioner Carmichael,
Here.
Commissioner Gupta,
Here.
Commissioner Gall,
Here.
Commissioner Kleinbaum,
Here.
Commissioner Escontrias,
Here.
and Commissioner Skiba.
Here.
Roll call is complete.
Great, thank you. Let's salute the flag. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So I guess we go to approving the order of agenda. Anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Motion by Commissioner Carmichael, second by Commissioner Kleinbaum. All in favor of approving the order of agenda?
Aye.
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 All in favor? You
Oh,
can proceed, Chair.
Thank you. No blue folder items, correct?
No blue folder items.
Do we need to get a approval for the consent calendar?
You will need a motion to approve the consent calendar, including the affidavit of posting in the minutes.
So moved.
Second it.
Motion by Carmichael, second by Skiba. I'm going to start repeating some things just to make it easier for our minutes secretary because we have a new one and she had some requests reviewing all these meetings that we now have minutes for.
Yeah.
And all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, so motion carries.
Great, thank you. So no excluded consent calendar items. And then we go to H, public participation on non-agenda items. Before we call people up, Officer Lostrom, do you have all the cue cards there ready to go?
I have written requests, which will be handled first.
Okay,
And for those who are speaking, I will indicate a start time, and you will have 3 minutes. The commission can move and second and approve via vote an additional minute and can ask clarifying questions, but no additional discussion on the matter. This will be a total of 30 minutes maximum. And the first would be, and then afterward will be the separately the e-comments that or emails.
may we make any motions to extend?
Correct. At the conclusion of the 3 minutes,
Yep.
I'll call time and then one of you can motion for an additional minute
As needed, yeah.
if need be. And clarifying questions may be asked, but no additional discussion among the commission.
Unless it's agendized and referral to staff phase.
Correct.
Cool, thanks.
First is on item H, written request is John Pershland. And then also, if you're going to speak, please state your name, spell it if it's tricky into the dais microphone.
Hi, I'm John Pershland. I was here a few months ago, if you recall. Here's why. Okay, that's Prospect and PV Boulevard. It continues to be a racetrack. Cars and motorcycles take off like it's a drag strip. With 3 schools within a half a mile of each other, the intersection is extremely busy with school children. There's a lot of pedestrians and dog walkers across that intersection as well. So this speeding traffic presents a real safety issue. Just recently, one of our neighbors got struck by a car crossing this intersection while walking his dog. He happens to be here. Fortunately, he's here.
40 miles an hour, point blank.
Yes.
In a crosswalk.
One speaker, please.
On days
Thank you.
I videoed this traffic, I make a recording. In 26 days, I had 751 entries. That's over 30 a day. I don't record every day. I don't record all day long, but it comes out to about 30 average a day. I'm sorry, 1,703 is what I recorded in those days. On January, in 26 days, I recorded 751 entries. That was the month the police did a crackdown on loud exhaust. Just down the street from Prospect before Toledo, there's 225-mile-per-hour school zone lights. Neither of them work. I contacted Ryan Liu, transportation engineer. He informed me that the city doesn't have enough money to fix them and that they've been broken for 10 years. This is a major school crossing for children right at Toledo School. Cars go down that street. They've been clocked at over 50 miles an hour. This is definitely a safety hazard to the school kids, and the lights should be fixed. I know on March 25th, there's going to be a meeting about traffic on trucks. I just want to share some statistics my neighbor Tony and I gathered, which is here. On 3 separate days, totaling 33 hours of recording, we captured about 336 trucks for a total of 112 a day. That was 3 days separated by a few weeks apart. On the 3rd day, I captured traffic on PV Boulevard and Prospect. The rest were PV Boulevard only. That was a total of about 130 trucks on both directions, both at the intersection. Again, with 3 schools in the area, this is definitely a safety hazard. So when we go to the meeting next week, we're definitely going to be arguing about the truck routes. Tony and I have met personally with several police officers about these issues. That's all I got to say for now.
So,
Go ahead, sir.
so thank you for bringing this to the attention and caring about it. I mean, I have my 2 daughters there who go to one of those 3 schools. Officer Lostrom, has there been a formal study at that intersection, a traffic study?
So you can bring that up in a referral to staff,
Okay.
but no additional discussion on the public participation since it's not on the agenda, for it's specifically designated for non-agenda items. If you have any clarifying questions for the speaker, you can ask them, but.
I just have one more question. What would be your proposed solution?
Well, we've talked to the police. I had the police officers come into my house and talk about this. Captain Naylor was originally working with, but he retired. So Officer Strussnyder came to visit me with another officer. And we talked about it, and they said they're going to get some police officers with speed guns. They're going to try to get out there more often. Again, at 30, I mean, it's more than 30 a day because I don't record every day. I mean, today there must have been 60 cars out there drag racing type takeoffs. The solution, either more patrols, speed bumps, or put cameras out there to catch them speeding.
Commissioner Carmichael, I have a question after you, but go ahead, sir.
I just have one. Have you used, I think we have an app called like Access Redondo. Have you submitted any of?
No, I have not,
Okay.
but I'll check it out.
Access Redondo.
Oh, Access Redondo. Actually, I have been on there and I have submitted stuff. I've submitted emails to the mayor, to the captain, everybody.
No, that's fine. From a clarifying perspective, like it helps us to be able to reference.
Yes,
So
okay.
I can say, oh, okay, Prospect and
PV Boulevard.
and PV Boulevard, there should be things that, right, so when we make a referral to staff,
Sure.
we can have an access point.
Okay,
Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
thank you.
Questions?
I have a question. Have you observed a police presence in that area, and how often?
Well, I have on occasion, it seems they come down and either, we've also had an issue of them going through stop signs on the avenues, and Tony might talk about that because he lives on one of them. And they do come by. I'm retired, so I kind of observe what's going on a lot. I have 4 cameras on my house that look at the streets, and that's how I caught the car that hit our neighbor. But anyway, yes, occasionally they're down there. They seem to come in for 15, 20 minutes, pull some people over, and then that's it. It'd be good if there was a presence, even if they just sat there on the corner occasionally, to let people know they're there, kind of thing. And, you know, but it goes on all day, so. And I'm sure I've talked to the police, and they said, it's sort of at the end, it's sort of like, we'll try our best with the staff we have, kind of thing. But like the trucks, there's only one officer, from what I understand, that's qualified to pull trucks over. And you got 100 of them coming down the street a day. What are you going to do?
Thank you, sir. I can understand your frustration. However, I would look at the possibility if you could possibly gather up the information you have, including emails and who you spoke to and when you spoke to. And that way we can have a more of a timeline as well as documentation as to what has occurred. In this way, it doesn't get lost in the cracks and such like that. My concern would be that we have directed patrol, that if it is such that now somebody is hurt, I don't want to wait or believe that we should wait or have any other excuse or reason as to why you were not receiving the services that you should be getting in that area. And my concern would be that so that we have documentation so it does not become an anecdote and just somebody saying whatever. I go through that intersection probably 3 or 4 times a day myself, but my bigger issue is the service you're receiving and that this does not become when we get to it.
Right. And where do you want me to direct this information to?
That would, I would say, direct it to us.
Okay.
So that we can look at that. And again, anyone else who has a timeline and such, because again, the biggest issue that comes with this is documentation.
Right. I have sent some stuff to Jeffrey, and I can forward it to him to disperse amongst the group.
Yes, sir. And that generally, that's how we receive that information, so that if anyone has an idea or that if it's got to go higher up to the council, that we have documentation of that and it's not just an anecdote.
Right. I did send a more detailed explanation of what I was going to be talking about to
That's
Jeffrey.
fine. I would venture to say that would probably be the best way, or anyone else for that matter.
Okay. Well,
Again,
also Alan and I have been communicating.
Okay, and especially anyone else that you are aware of in your neighborhood, as numbers count. Okay, for every, probably, I kind of believe that for every one person who says something, there's probably about 100 who don't.
Well, I
Because
have
they-
everything on video.
That's fine. I would believe that
I mean,
would.
I don't want to send you the video. You'll be watching them for an hour. And they're clips. They're just clips of what's going on.
Sir, that's what we're supposed to be here for. If you put it on a thumb drive, then if that's the case, then we'll do it.
These are proof sheets I take of the trucks that are coming by. And there's like 112 or 336 proof sheets for 3 days.
Right.
I have that information. I just had to agendize it for a future meeting.
got
Just
a
so
new
that you
one.
understand, is there is a difference in enforcement of traffic laws and enforcement of commercial traffic laws.
Right.
Okay, that doesn't mean you can't stop a truck
No, I understand.
for anything else.
Okay.
right,
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
I'll forward everything to Jeffrey.
Any final questions for John?
I was just gonna just say, we'll make a referral to staff at the end of the meeting to escalate it using the data and we can keep exploring it.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Next speaker is Christopher Jones. Again, if you could just repeat your name into the microphone at the dais.
Thank you. Christopher Jones. Good evening. I live at Palos Verdes and Prospect, actually right across the street from John. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to echo, and really that's the reason I'm here, is to echo and second John's comments and concerns regarding traffic safety and noise in our neighborhood. He's been doing a great job with some of the other neighbors of collecting some actual data and metrics. I don't have that for you tonight, even though I used to be an engineer, but you can consider me the second 100th person to come up. I've lived in my home now for some time. I've witnessed the aftermath of many accidents at Palos Verdes and Boulevard and Prospect. For some reasons, motorists like to race that light. It seems to be most prevalent going southbound on Prospect and west into Torrance on Palos Verdes Boulevard. I do want to take a moment to thank Redondo Beach PD. Last summer, they were out. They pulled a temporary trailered speed sensing sign out and put it on all the intersections, over the course of a couple of weeks, I think it was, and then stepped up enforcement dramatically. And at least anecdotally, again, I think there was a significant drop in speeding and concerns. It certainly seemed to have an effect, but unfortunately not a lasting one. There seems to be some, time constant in that system, and it just kind of dulls out after a while. One of the reasons I came in tonight is that just a few weeks ago, my next door neighbor, Chuck, who's in the audience, retired LA Fire Department, was struck and injured by a car in the crosswalk on Prospect Avenue, something I do pretty much every evening in my neighborhood. He was walking his dog, he was in the crosswalk, a car came speeding southbound on Prospect, at least speeding it appears from John's video, and he was struck and injured. That really was kind of a wake-up call for me. I've been watching what goes on there for a couple of decades now, and especially with Toledo down the street. My own boys used to go there. They're grown now, but they don't. Very concerned about the effect on children and adults that are walking their kids to school or home from school in the crosswalks. And, sometimes there's a crossing guard there. I know sometimes lately there's been a challenge with some of that. Also, we have a major housing development opening soon on the corner of PCH and Palos Verdes. Increased volume from this project undoubtedly will only aggravate traffic issues in this neighborhood. I got to believe. I'm not a traffic engineer, but that stands to reason. Again, I really want to just second and echo the work that John's been doing. He's done a nice job. The police have been responsive. Nils Narenheim, our District 1 council member, has been very responsive. But I think, I don't recall who it was mentioned, I think this would be a great time to try to.
Request additional time.
Second.
Sorry, 1 second. I just want to, someone's going to be watching this later. So that was a motion by Commissioner Escontrias,
Yes.
seconded by Commissioner Carmichael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
For an additional minute, please proceed.
I just wanted to say that, in light of what happened to Chuck, I think it's a great time to take a hard look at what's going on here before there's a tragedy at that intersection, especially with the elementary school down the block. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Just want to say thank you for everyone for taking the time to bring it to our attention and escalate it.
All right. You're very welcome, and really thanks to John and the other neighbors that are here tonight.
Nancy, did you have anything to add?
I do. I had a suggestion. Perhaps you and the neighbors, the people who live in that area who are witnessing all of this and who are so concerned, could all get together, write a petition, all of you sign it, and someone come and present it at the city council meeting.
Certainly. We'll do that.
I like to write letters to the editor, but that's just me. Thank you.
Whatever might help. Thank you.
Who's next?
I have a Mike Wood. Mike Wood. 1 second, Mike.
Michael Wood. I live next door to John. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. And I appreciate the interest I'm seeing from all of you in this issue. To Commissioner Gupta's question on proposed solutions, I have one here for your consideration. The roundabout policy and design practices for the County of Los Angeles is near completion by Ms. Linda Ayers. And while they're relatively new in this country, about 15 years now as a major use, they're about 40 years old, and remarkable results we're seeing with roundabouts. They are shown to reduce worldwide and US statistics showing that a 90% reduction in deaths when compared to stop or signal-controlled intersections. They're also finding that the features, including yield control, channelized approaches, tend to reduce speeds, but also increase the flow of traffic as opposed to light-controlled intersections. I'm not a traffic safety person, but as we were searching for ideas to bring to you, this was one that seems to be getting more traction within LA County. It is a very wide intersection. I'm 33 years with the Department of the Air Force. I've been all over the country and the world, and I've seen these used in very effective ways. Certainly one would fit in this intersection. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
So the crosswalks would still be on the square, like outside the circle, the circumferences of it?
Yes, sir. Yes, they accommodate crosswalks. There's enough space for the second lane if need be. There's different designs.
Yeah.
It's a 30-mile-an-hour zone, so it fits well within the range of what would be expected for that type of use.
It's really interesting and innovative.
Quick comment. We had, and thank you for coming. We had a roundabout, I think, in North Redondo, and after a few months, it was removed for some reason. I never figured out why it was removed. But did any other commissioners have any comments or questions?
I have one.
Go ahead.
First of all, thank you all. I just want to say for your time and your diligence. Quick question: Are you noticing the speed like any time of day, or is it just all day?
Yes. Well, certainly I haven't done the level of research that Mr. Pershilin has done, but we've been there 12 years now, and we've noticed in the last, it's been increasing every year, but just in the last 2 to 3 years, it's more than the commuter traffic. Usually it's a commuter. In fact, I commute out to El Segundo on Prospect to Aviation, but yeah, and it tends to pick up. We see a lot of people trying to beat the light.
Okay.
That is the biggie. They try to beat the light, and they're doing 50, 60 miles an hour as a result, rapidly approaching the stop sign intersection right below it. And so that's increased the noise challenge. It's increased our concern for safety for children.
Okay.
But yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Do you think, I like these out-of-the-box ideas, but do you think that like changing the timing on the lights could help? Or I think, I'm sure it's harder in practice, but like speed bumps, like changing the built environment in other ways. Do you feel like those are viable options?
I can't speak for everyone here, but we have discussed speed bumps, and we think that would be very useful. It's a much lower cost option than a roundabout. Although if you look at the research on roundabouts, they're not significantly expensive. But yeah, that would certainly be a lower cost option that I think many of us would be satisfied with.
I would also brainstorm with the Public Works Department, or the commission there too, and they have meetings every month as well, as we're getting kind of into their domain. But no, these are all good suggestions. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to comment. Yeah, thank you for the roundabout suggestion. I think it's a really good idea.
Thank you. Okay.
As far as the roundabouts go, it's my understanding that Redondo had done already a study on roundabouts prior to the one going in North Redondo. And there's one on South Redondo. I believe it's off of what is it? Not by Nob Hill, but there is a roundabout currently there. Okay. And again, I think they were going to pull it out only because of the crest of the hill. And also be aware that the studies have been done as well as locations that can take speed humps instead of speed bumps, speed humps. And more than likely that may or may not qualify for one, as is a major thoroughfare. The biggest issue that comes up is whether or not the fire trucks can go through. Although I have my opinion as to how fast a fire truck can go, and the law basically indicates how fast a fire truck can travel.
Yes.
So that would be, I'm not going to say an obstacle, but it's going to be a concern as to whether or not that is a viable approach to it, okay?
Yes.
I think if nothing else and anything else, what bothers me is that you guys have to come in here to tell us what we probably already know and what we should have already known. This should have been taken care of with one phone call from this gentleman, and it should have been either more directed patrol and such. That's just my opinion of this. But I applaud you for coming in, because this is what this is about. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate all of you.
Leah Wood. Okay. Tony Magana.
Good evening, Council. Anthony Magana. I live on the corner of Alberta and PV Boulevard. I'm here because of the intersection on PV and Alberta there. It's actually a thoroughfare for the kids that cross there to go to the school down below. I've been at my location for 38 years, and as this officer knows, they know me down at the police station because I call all the time. And I've been fighting to get something done at that location for many years. Like the gentleman said, we have been, in the past 3 to 4 years, it's gotten worse, a lot worse. And once that project's done down there on Pacific Coast Highway and PV Boulevard, it's going to get worse. We have a constant battle with people running the stop sign there. Constant. It's 24/7 all the time. I mean, I could sit out there in the evening and I'll count half a dozen running the stop sign. I have people racing up and down the street there. I do have a problem with like sometimes when I call the police department, I get no response sometimes at all, and I don't get I don't get good feedback sometimes, and that's understandable. And I don't blame Redondo PD. I don't blame them at all, because I know their hands are they're busy. Yeah. They can't be everywhere at one time, and I understand that. And that's like I let them know that, because I don't want them to think that they have to be out there right now and sit there and for 7 hours, 8 hours. No, that's not what I expect. But when I call, I expect someone to come out, and I can sit out there doing my gardening, because I'm retired too. And I can count 12 to 2 dozen cars running that stop sign during the day. And that's every day. Every day. When me and John met with Corey and the other officer, I actually gave Corey a list of times, for the trucks that come by, and also the around roughly when we get a lot of the people that run the stop signs. Mm. So there has been a list put out to Redondo for that, and to this day, and what was that, John? Maybe 3 weeks? No, maybe about a month ago we had that meeting, huh? About a month ago we had the meeting with them at my house, and I still haven't seen an officer out there, okay, at the time frames where it's critical times, where I did critical times.
Time.
Motion to extend.
Second.
Motion to extend by Escontrias, seconded by Carmichael. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And a minute extension. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, sir. I'm just, we need to do something. Okay, and like I say, when our councilman came into office, Niels, that was my biggest thing when he knocked on my door. I says, we got to do something with this intersection. I said, because someone's going to get killed, and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It may have, not that many accidents there, but I've seen some bad accidents there since I've lived there. And all I'm asking is from, some kind of help where we could, alleviate this problem over there, because it's getting worse. And it's all hours. We'll get big trucks coming up the street in the morning at 3:30 in the morning. Mm-hmm. See, I started this whole thing with the big trucks. So it's, and it's not a truck route. And we don't need semi trucks coming up that street, and we don't need double tankers coming up that street. Look what just happened in Wilmington. It's gonna happen in Redondo if we continue. Oh, I want to thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead.
Again, seriously, thank you for your time. There's two resources that I don't hear being used. One is fairly new, and it's qualityoflife@redondo.org. Send them emails.
Okay.
Literally, like, if it's happening, just pull it up. And if you send them enough, it'll like be programmed in your phone. Because that goes to like God and country.
Okay.
It goes to chief of police, goes to like anybody who's anybody is attached to that email. And that isn't to say that someone's going to jump in that moment, but enough emails causes enough, okay, enough is enough, right? So that's one. And the second one is the Access Redondo app. I would encourage because it has do you take a picture? Do you have a video? It allows you to upload those. So those are two things that I would encourage you all to use, because then when we go to NILS or, or the council, we can point to X and Y, right? Those are two things that they're going to know. Oh, okay, yes, I did get that email. Yes, I did see that through the app. Yes. And then we can quantify it. And you can do, I believe, as Commissioner Contreras referred to, there was a study about the roundabouts. You can do what's called a PRA request, a Public Records Act request, to see what came of the study. Because that may also tell you what happened with the one that was here and it's gone. So you may think that that's a resolution, but when you read the report that says this is why it's gone, you're like, okay, no, we don't want that, right? We don't want an additional. And with respect to I want to say Planning Commission, they have like 3 different terms for speed bumps. There's one that they love and it's cheap, so they may go with that one. So it's called a love bump. I don't know. It's some weird, I was like, really? But they loved it. So, you might be saying speed bump and they're like, no, we can't do that. But if you use the one that they love, they may put that one in that much faster. And I think it mitigates the fire engine, such and so forth. It was at I want to say 3 city council meetings ago, they pitched it and it got approved. So just like check the city council agenda, maybe go back 2 months, but it's on there, like the Planning Commission. You'll see a representative came and they spoke. It'll tell you what the name of that speed bump thing was. Okay. They approved it. I forget where it was, but you'll see where it was. And then if you want to traipse over there and be like, oh yeah, that'll work. That vocabulary change may get you more of a yes or closer to a coming of the minds.
And now they're reviewing budget right now for next year. So this would be a good time to kind of warm up on us, like comedy, sports, and then go to your city council meeting and then ask for it. Yeah.
And also look at the budget for 2024. So the city manager put together a budget. There's like 61, what do they call, capital improvement projects. Look and see what they're doing, because then that also is a vocabulary for you. So I think the speed bump thing is on there, what they called it, and see what neighborhoods they're tracking, because then that'll tell you where you'll go in the queue, right? So you're like, oh, we want all these things done, but it's like, okay, they've got 61. What's the progress on it? How far along are they? And then what are they planning for budget? So that'll be that thing that helps you, number one, communicate with them effectively in their language, right? Sending an email through the Access Redondo app, and also to the qualityoflife@redondo.org email. But then also looking at how they describe things and then going, okay, that might work for us.
Terrific. Okay.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. It's frustrating when you call the police or you see something where the motorists don't respect the traffic laws, and you call the police department and they don't always respond, but don't get discouraged. That's what they're there for. Don't hesitate. If you see something that's not right, call them, because that's their job.
Well, believe me, I don't. I mean, I've gone to the watch commander numerous times, because I've been hung up by dispatch a few times. And I really did appreciate that. So they know, like I said, they know me, and I'm going to continue to call until something's done with that intersection, because, I'm not going to go out there and there's a dead child or a mother with her baby or, you know, I mean, it's going to happen and it's just a matter of time.
It's happened up north, yes.
So,
Go ahead, sir.
So, I just want to say, I think this is the right venue, and I think as a committee, we're all going to follow it up, and we can talk to Officer Lostrom and see what happened, and what is, because obviously everyone has good intentions and no one wants that outcome, right?
right.
So we could work with the Redondo Beach Police and see kind of what's going on. So I think this is a good venue, and it's very effective that all you guys came and reiterate this point. So as a commission, we can follow this up as well.
Yeah, well, Redondo does great, believe me. I mean, I see more vehicles, police cars out there than I do motors. And there was a certain sergeant that was there at one point, which has now been promoted. After he left, we see no motors, hardly at all.
There's a lot of injuries right now, what I understand, is that right? Or we can discuss later.
So I'm sure we could come up with a
Yeah.
solution that takes into account all the pressures the police
Right.
are under and.
Oh, no, I understand, yeah, and I'm not, by all means, I'm for the police, believe me. So it's,
If I could just, one more. Go ahead. I just want to make one more point, just to underscore it. So last budget season, things with e-bikes kicked up, and they got approved for 2 new traffic police officers. So send these emails in because that helps
we'll do
with
that.
the justification
We'll do
of
that.
additional officers
perfect, okay.
concentrated on a particular thing.
Right.
Right. So it wasn't like they got 2 new officers. They got 2 new traffic officers.
Right.
So that's specific to those things.
Right,
So,
okay.
and again, read over the budget, not to be like, oh, it's really not numbers, believe it or not. It's really a story. And it says, okay, Parks and Recs thinks this, and you can see how they speak. So when you are submitting your tickets to them, you kind of, it's their language. And then all they do is copy and paste and put it in the budget, and then boom, you get.
Okay, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Also, I think it's at a recent city council meeting, they were discussing, somebody got up and they were talking about these speed bumps and speed humps and all that. And they mentioned that the fire trucks or emergency vehicles can drive over certain ones and maintain a certain speed as opposed to the biggest ones. So when you get the name of the correct one, that would help a lot when you're asking for it. Okay.
Yeah, they'll say yes immediately.
Okay, terrific.
I think also operationally, we're going to work on this. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, if you come back next month, we can follow up all these items
Okay,
as well.
thank you so much.
Great. We have any written comments? No. Nobody looks asleep, so it looks like it's been a good meeting thus far.
No emails received and.
Your mic's not on. No, his.
No e-comments and no Zoom attendees.
Thank you all for coming. Be delighted to have everybody here. To the end of the meeting, we will discuss some of this perhaps in referrals to staff and after. And I really appreciate you all taking the time. So we should go to anything from close item H and go to items continued from previous agendas. I don't think there are any. Are there, Officer Lofstrom? Thanks, sir. And we go to the Redondo Beach Fire Department for recent fire events, J1. Hi.
How you doing? Good to see everyone again. I missed you guys last time, so I'll give you kind of breakdown of our final stats from 2023, kind of where we're going right now, and maybe go over a couple of significant incidents we had probably since the last time I spoke to you all. So final numbers for 2023. 8,276 responses. That is a steady increase each year. Since I've been here, it's gone up in 12 years from about 5,500 to 8,200. I think last year was somewhere in the 76 to 7,700 range. So 71% of those calls were medical aids. Approximately 70% were medical aids. We had 53 first alarm responses. It doesn't mean we had 53 fires, but first alarm responses. Of that, 8 of them were upgraded to second alarms, so those were working fires where we needed more than our initial 4 engines, truck, rescues, and the like. So that was the final numbers for 2023. So far this year, we're right on the same pace, a little bit busier. We're at 1,800 responses so far, midway through March. 71% of them are medical aids. As far as any significant events, we have had several fires probably since the last time I spoke to you all. The biggest one was we provided mutual aid to a big commercial fire in El Segundo a couple months ago. Our battalion chief, Chief May, responded with one of the engines from up north. Very big fire. It was a defensive fire. By the time they got there, I worked together with a lot of LA City crews were there, El Segundo Fire Department, and Manhattan Beach. Redondo did the fire investigation afterwards, so we had a crew of about 3 or 4 people out there, stayed overnight, did the investigation in the morning. So that was a pretty significant incident. Just the other day, they had a small first alarm over on Grant Avenue, right around the time that the elementary school there was getting out. So they got a quick knockdown on it. It was just some stuff burnt up over, right above a stove, a hot plate. So the captain got a lot of credibility and a lot of pats on the back from controlling the traffic, working with PD on the incident. So,
What was that?
Grant. Yeah,
Grant.
yeah, small fire.
Thank you.
A couple other fires that we had over the last couple months. There was a fire on 1219 on South Alberta Avenue, single family residence, single story. I was there that day. It was on a C shift. They did a really good job, smoke and flames coming out of. They seen a header on the way in. They got to it really quick, an aggressive knockdown. Kept it to the unit of origin. Once again, it was a kitchen fire. It was an appliance fire, but they were able to knock it down pretty quick. The door was open already, so they got in there pretty aggressively and prevented it from spreading to any other adjacent buildings or anything. So that's that. We had a fire on the Esplanade just around Thanksgiving Day, actually, on a larger building, 700 Esplanade. Again, pretty quick approach on there. One of our captains got on scene pretty quick. We knocked it down before it got to spread to any adjacent units. Our community relief fund did a good job. There was one displaced resident from that. We put her in a hotel for 3 days. And community relief fund is basically, we'll do charity events throughout the year to fund that community relief fund. And then when there's big fires or incidents, we'll use those funds that we've generated from charity to put somebody in a hotel for a couple days. So that was good. Yeah, so those are kind of some of the major incidents we had. I know last time around, you guys are asking a lot about wellness and mental health and stuff. I know police and fire are working together right now on potentially for next year on getting the Sharp Performance Wellness app, which comes at a pretty significant cost, but it's a group of U.S. Special Force soldiers that provide mental health training for people in careers like us, fire, police, stuff like that.
Which organization is that, sir?
It's called Sharp Performance Wellness.
And does that cost?
I can't give you all the numbers. It's about $300 per member. So it's something that would have to go, to council for a decision package and stuff. But the groundwork is there. We had like an initial meeting in chiefs, and it's something that they're probably going to push forward. So seems like a really good opportunity. The members that do that have a lot of credibility, like I said, special force agents, and there's a big confidentiality component to it where it's just, you don't have to tell anybody you're doing it. You can just make the phone call on the app. And a lot of different agencies are using it. I know West Covina Fire Department had some recommendations on there. And it's, like I said, very beginning steps, so I probably can't answer every question about it. But we had a meeting, and I think our chiefs are impressed with it. It could be something that moves forward in that direction.
Does it incorporate mindfulness into it?
Yes, it does. I can't give you all the details of exactly what it does, but it's anything from the notes I had, anything from like preventative training, coaching, resource management. And, until you get in there and start using it, I can't explain how great it is. But
Has there been any evaluation on it, like outcome studies from the app and other departments?
yeah, I don't have that, but outside of just like,
curious, yeah.
some
Anecdote.
comments people made on the site.
I think if nothing else, my concern is although Special Forces does those things, but a firefighter and a police officer generally on a different mindset to a certain degree.
You can be, but
I'm curious if whether or not you looked at other organizations that do something similar, and if this is what you guys choose, great, because you're the ones who are going to be using it. But my concern again is employee wellness,
Right.
not only just firefighters, but also civilians who work for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be part of the team if they wanted to be part of it. And like, my take on it from what I've seen from one meeting, like a very surface level meeting, was that it was, you can get wellness coaching
Right.
as well as, anything else you need in that sense. And people seemed impressed with it because there was a confidentiality portion to it, but
Yes.
more to come. It was just an idea that's thrown out there that could get out there. Other than that, I'll probably just answer any questions you guys have about the agency, about anything we got going on.
One real quick question, were there any other sort of wellness consulting components offered for this besides special forces, such as maybe retired police and fire or anything like that, or this is the only one they're looking at?
No, they may be looking at more. This is
Okay.
just one. I just brought it up because I was
Sure.
impressed at the meeting and I thought maybe it could be something to hear more about in the future.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
You had a question?
I did. Mine's two parts. One, thanks for circling back and taking that sort of action. Appreciate it. And two, to the audience, see, they do. So when we bring stuff to their attention in their language, they action. So seriously, I'm encouraging you, just see how they speak and then make your complaints that way. They do. Three, when you think about what you all are currently doing from a health and wellness perspective, and what you saw in this presentation, do you feel like it'll level the team up? I don't want to get stuck on off ramps like special forces and stuff like that. Just genuinely, like you said, okay, we have to look at our mental health. These are the activities that we're currently doing. So now let's look at some others who can, sort of level us up in that and sort of service delivery model. Do you feel like this at a basic level will do that?
From what I can tell of it it's probably an increase. Everything we do now is more as a group.
Great.
This gives people the opportunity to have one-on-one stuff without going to somebody else to get that. Peer support is great, but once again, you're dealing with your peers in your own agency and stuff like that. So this could be an opportunity to do something outside of that. So, if I'm somebody's chief and they got to come to me and I'm coaching them, they could be a little more apprehensive. If that makes sense.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Awesome.
Well, we've got you here.
Yeah.
What kind of a speed hump can your vehicles go over?
So, you know what? This topic came up a couple months ago. Ryan Liu, I believe his name is, from engineering and planning, is taking on some projects. There is, and I can't describe every difference between speed humps, speed cushions, speed bumps. There are differences. The difference is there are certain streets that are weak. They'd have to get specific permission from the fire department to change language to allow specific speed bumps or humps to be placed in there. Obviously, very busy access roads. Our response times are important, getting to hospitals are important and stuff like that. So any streets or anything that comes up, if it's on that list, Ryan will probably make the request and send it through us. So as far as, it's not only fire engines that go through that. I know the wheelbase of a fire engine is much wider than the wheelbase of a paramedic rescue. So we have trucks, we have a fire truck, which has the 100-foot ladder. We also have engines, that carry the water and the hose, and we also have paramedic rescues, which are the ones that actually drive most often, right? They're the ones that go to the hospital. They're the ones that go first on scene to all these calls. So their wheelbase is a little bit lower, speed bumps, or humps, whatever it is. I think the humps are a little bit shorter, or the speed cushions are a little bit shorter wheel width. But
Yes.
our paramedic rescues, our squads, would still have to go over that. That's the wheelbase is smaller on there. So by all means, I've heard what everybody says here, and if stuff comes through, we'll do our best to satisfy everybody. We don't want people. I've been on scene where kids get hit by cars and stuff. It's not a cool scene. It doesn't do good.
Yes, speed cushion. That's the other one.
Yes.
That was the one that mitigated
Climb bump.
the fire engine. I knew it had a different word. I was like, what? But speed cushion.
And I drive past that street. I live off Sepulveda. I know the street you're talking about. It's a challenge.
Okay, again, I'm aware of several other mental health people that are firefighters and law enforcement, and it's free.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway.
You want to maybe send
Yes,
me
I
an
can send
email
those
or
to you as
something?
well. There's
Yeah.
something with the apps and such
Yeah,
like that
sure.
with real psychologists, okay? My question would be, 71% of your call-outs were medical.
Yes, sir.
Of that, how many were there dealing with non-residents, either homeless or however you want to describe them?
It's very hard to quantify that.
It's hard to quantify or you just don't quantify?
No, it's hard to. So I reached out, I had a little short conversation with our EMS chief, and I know there is links where you can click on your EMS thing to see,
Right.
to document, if it's a homeless person or not. The data wasn't, I mean, it's a new portion of that data. So when I looked at it, the numbers just weren't accurate at all. It wasn't anything that I could use and live by.
Okay,
So
so-
it's something that could be researched more, but I don't have any good numbers for you.
Is the possibility of researching to determine that for the future, for the next year, to determine how much we are actually spending on non-residents?
Well, there's a difference between non-residents and, a transient person, right? So you can have people that come in here and work in the city. Outside of going in and literally like looking at every address on
Your run sheets, yeah.
6,000 run sheets.
Right.
If you want to hire somebody to do that, be my guest. I can't do it. But I'll do a little more research or just ask some more questions related to if we can get homeless numbers. I know that's something that's not just for you guys, everybody's asking about, but the data wasn't quite there for us, so it's got to be more of a focus, I think.
Okay, thank you. The O2 masks, have they been,
Yes.
the O2 masks for pets, have they been deployed?
We haven't used them on a call yet.
I mean, they've been put
Yeah,
out to the
they've been
to
put
the
out.
rigs.
An email came out with it. I seen the picture where the guys took with you. They were very grateful. We have them on the rigs, but they.
For those that are not aware of, the Friends of Redondo Beach Dog Park made a donation of 8 packages of oxygen masks specifically for pets, birds, cats, dogs, and such like that, for each rig. Again, there's based on the number that you had requested, which was, I believe, 8.
Yeah.
We would have gone, or they would have gone more, I'll put it that way. They
Right.
would have gone more had you requested them. And ideally, I think it's important that you guys acknowledge that because the same offer was done to Torrance Police or Torrance Fire, Hermosa, as well as, and none of them responded. So they got nothing. So
Yeah.
if you use them, we would like to know if possible.
Absolutely. As soon as we use them, hope we don't have to use them.
Yeah,
'cause
hopefully
I
not.
like the
Okay.
animals.
Along the same lines, your community relief fund, have you considered approaching the dog park to be able to facilitate any type of equipment, if you will, in case somebody does come into an issue where they're displaced and say, for example, need a crate or they need other things that would accommodate an animal, which would facilitate them a lot easier getting into, say, a hotel or anything else like that?
Okay, so your question is
My
more.
recommendation is that you contact the Friends of the Redondo Beach Dog Park to see
Okay.
if they can accommodate you for that.
For equipment for animals that get, yeah, sure.
Yes, they're set up
We'll
for
get to
it,
that. Cool.
I assure you, okay? The other thing would ask is of the number of responses, how many of that were mutual aid where we had to go outside of the city? And how many of the mutual aids where somebody had to come into the city?
I didn't print those out. I can get that to you. It's pretty easy.
Okay, my concern is how much time are we spending out? And for
I
how
think
much
right
is-
now we actually have a little bit more coming in because
Okay.
if you look at the surrounding agencies, we have a higher call volume than say Manhattan Beach. So they have come into our city more than us. I think the last time I looked, it was like 90 versus 40 or something.
Okay, so if people are coming, if other agencies are coming in, is that because of manpower or is it because of equipment?
It just depends on,
Or actually the size of fire, which,
So on a fire, we're going to get mutual aid anyway. We give mutual aid. We're on Manhattan Beach's first alarm run. We're on LA counties in certain areas and vice versa.
for the
So
county. LA County does not shift their people, they call you guys in?
they have their people too, but we'll get sent in for fires. If there's a fire right here in Hermosa Beach, then yeah, we'll go there as well because we're closer than the
Then a
fourth
shift
engine.
from, say, Carson or anything else like that?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get there. They have units that are there and they're going to get all their units. But, if you're close and you're 2 miles away, you're going to be dispatched to a fire that's right there. Because the first alarm is 4 engines, so you're going to get usually the 4 closest engines.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, cool.
Commissioner Kleinbaum, then Commissioner Gupta.
Good question. You initially, in your presentation, provided statistics on the volume of calls over time, and it seems like over the years, it grows and grows and grows, and I can understand the population of the city grows, so you get more calls, but do you keep statistics on the percent of calls that are true emergencies? How has that changed over time?
Well, what I've learned in my time here is like an emergency to me is something different than an emergency to you or you or you. So like we have what's considered a ALS run, which is an advanced life support call, where we transport somebody with paramedics. Sure, there's data that says how many transports we had for that required a paramedic versus how many transports we had that required just an EMT versus non-transports. But there's no way to truly look at what's, I've been on thousands and thousands of calls. So what I consider is like a true emergency might be a little bit different than somebody else. It's an emergency to the community. So I can get you data when you want to know how many ALS calls or you have a specific chief complaint. I could kind of look into that, but anytime someone calls 911, it's considered an emergency,
So when someone calls 911, it's emergency and you have to respond, I understand. But you can categorize into different lists the types of event that occurred, what types of events occurred, over the years, over time, the percentage of each type of event, how has it changed, if at all? Like, for example, somebody calls, my cat's in my tree, please call, help me to take them down.
Right. Yeah, I'd have to go real deep into and get bigger parameters into it's a good question. And, we could look into, I can get together with our EMS chief and ask specific questions and try to get some data related to specific chief complaints, traumatic calls versus pure medical calls versus, water. I mean, I don't know, is it not an emergency? If it's a water damage call, it's an emergency to that person that's in their house, but no one's dying at that moment. So it's kind of
Subjective.
Yeah, it's perspective, but we can get some data related to specific types of calls if that's what you're looking for.
Just wanted to understand how the resources are utilized and how they change over time.
Yeah, and part of that too is how we respond as an agency, right? So right now, specific calls, if it's considered a BLS call, the EMD dispatching started. So they'll dispatch certain units based on the nature of the call, based on the chief complaint on a medical aid. You're not going to get, if somebody just has a hurt forearm or wrist or a knee, you're not going to get an engine and a rescue. In the past, you would just get the full bill for everything. So we're making adjustments as an agency to have our units available as much as possible. I'll try to dig deeper into that because there's so many different layers you can go into it. But sure, how we're using our resources and how they're being called out for sure.
Go ahead, Commissioner Gupta.
Oh, I have a thought on that now. Initially, I wanted to know what the dog oxygen masks are, what the difference in the pet animals, because you need different size masks, right, for O2, or is it different nasal cannulas, or I was just really curious about that. Yeah, or a non-rebreather or something.
FDA approved, yeah.
And I guess my other thought to your comment, I think that is interesting to categorize. So I'm a physician, and when someone comes with chest pain, it could be a panic attack or it could be a true NSTEMI or something, right? So it's difficult to tell without incorporating other data sources. But I do think that to really figure out the best way to triage resources would be to find some sort of categorization. And maybe one day, getting the artificial intelligence, the AI, to try to analyze the data sets, because then you could kind of see if a specific category of call was increasing, then maybe perhaps finding other systemic resources to deal with that type of thing.
Such as planning your defib technology and when to launch more units to head off certain, things
Exactly.
like that.
You can make good systemic decisions about that. And I think, is there any talks of collecting this data and analyzing it in that way?
Yeah, we're always going to try to analyze, it's the new trend in the fire service. We use the data to your advantage. So we'll be looking into it. And we have an EMS, a nurse educator that goes through our QI and goes through the chief complaints and we go over stuff. But there is the only kind of small part of caution I would say when you deal with emergency services is you want to make sure you don't under respond, right? So what could come in as this could come in as anxiety, if you get there and it's a full arrest, now you're behind the 8 ball. So we just want to be ahead of the 8 ball.
So I think I think the decisions would be not to not respond to that,
Right.
But it would be for other things if wire I guess an idealistic situation of like a lot of heart attacks are happening than having other systemic resources to prevent that in different ways or
Yeah, I
something,
mean,
right? Yeah.
Sure, over time, I hope throughout my career, we'll get some element of, community paramedicine and stuff like that. There's all kinds of different ways we can go.
But
But the
it depends
data
on
will
what-
dictate.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
we'll get there. But yeah, we're certainly we'll continue to look at stuff and try to up the game on different data
Have people thought about how the data is documented on the initial run sheet and what data points are collected initially? Because no matter how much analysis you have, it depends on the initial data source. So are people thinking of different ways to collect, figure out what data to collect in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, I think your question's a little confusing because I don't know if you're talking about specific medical complaints and stuff like that. And sure, we get the data after the fact and then we'll review it and say we went on this many calls based with this chief complaint, this many with this chief complaint. But kind of what happens after that, right now we are still in the business of responding to emergencies, right? So, hopefully in the future we can get more into preventing these emergencies and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm all ears if you got some recommendation. Like I said, we have a nurse educator that reviews all our EMS sheets. She comes here, helps us with statistics. Anything that's glaring, we'll talk about if it's a hot topic based on our runs.
Commissioner Skiba?
Yes, hi, I'm just wondering if there's any update on the $300 plus proposed fee for paramedic services, paramedic calls with or without transport.
Yeah, that's still, I don't have anything. The update is it's going to go to council with more information. They requested a couple documents and stuff like that. I think specifically related to what the bill will look like. Chief Butler's gathered that information. We filled out surface level questionnaires. It is not implemented yet. So he's got that information. He's working with a company that does billing for that. And it's more of a information gathering phase right now than an implementation phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yes, concerning the dispatch, have you identified anyone or several people generally going through this frequent flyers who constantly call in on, although issues that you have to show up on, they're kind of taxing the system?
Yeah, I mean, every fire department has.
Yeah, I'm
that
aware,
person.
I know, but that's why we refer to them as frequent flyers.
Yeah.
And wondering whether or not they should then be referred maybe to the Department of Mental Health in order to get the frequency down on that, instead of utilizing you guys as a transport service?
Yeah, I mean, attempts are made to get people in those positions to work with social services. Our EMS chief does a really good job of meeting with them, talking to the hospitals, talking to mental health. But once again, if somebody calls 911, we respond. So.
Right, but my concern is that, again, I'll give you an example. I know in LA City, one individual calls 35 times a day. Okay, after a little bit of intervention, they got them down to 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, so but
Those measures have taken place. I can't tell you who or
Okay.
what, but
But you do have
this is-
something in place that
yes,
does
this is an
address those
ongoing.
kind of
This is
issues.
not like a new phenomenon. We've gone through this since the day I've got hired. You can name a different person every year.
Right.
And our EMS chief, whoever it is at the time, whether it was Chief Smith, Chief Winter, Chief Yang,
Okay, great.
they
Excellent.
do the same thing. Sometimes it works great and sometimes it
Takes
doesn't,
time.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
So it's similar in the hospitals, right? We see people from the ERs.
But
and
there are
then we do
agencies that
systemic and, yeah,
that
no, it's a good
directly
question.
deal with that.
I was just wondering, this is probably for Kyle or Officer Lostrom afterwards, but can we get that nurse analyst who comes and looks at the chart to come to these meetings and kind of see how he or she analyzes the data and?
Yeah, we just got a new one, so let me give her a little time to get going. And I'll run it by the EMS chief.
Yeah, just so we're
kind
together to
of
figure it
review the
out.
conversation and see
Yeah.
if we can get someone in here and stuff.
We'll look at agendizing that if we have a.
So basically you want to just kind of find out more of how the data is being analyzed.
Yeah, because I think you're right. If someone calls you, you have to go, right? That's the thing. But it's more about what happens to the data afterwards and how is that being used to figure out because there's nothing you guys can do in the moment, but
Right.
just how do we use that data to help
Sure.
make better decisions?
Makes sense, yeah.
Any other questions? Thanks for being a Class 1 fire department and having us in here.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right.
I think Kyle's up.
Yeah, I think so. So we would go to J2, discussion of crime recap. community policing, and volunteers. Wow, all in one. Go ahead, Officer Lostrom. Good evening.
Good evening, Commission. In addition to the crime recap that you see in your agenda packet each month, one thing I'd like to address is that I thought would be of note that has not come up yet. So good guess by me. Was the homicide on the pier that occurred in February. So I'd like to read the information that we put out as well as an update on that information. So this is dated February 16th. On February 16th, 2024, at approximately 6:10 a.m., police officers from the Redondo Beach Police Department responded to a death investigation at the pier parking structure located at 100 West Torrance Boulevard, in the city of Redondo Beach. Public Works employee assigned at the pier discovered the unconscious victim in one of the parking structure stairwells. Police officers and paramedics from the Redondo Beach Fire Department arrived on scene and pronounced the victim deceased from an apparent gunshot wound to the head. Detectives from the Redondo Beach Police Department Investigations Unit have initiated a homicide investigation and are following several leads. This time, there's no suspect information, no known motive for the crime. The identity of the victim, who is believed to be homeless, is being withheld pending confirmation by LA County Coroner's Office. And then obviously it says anyone with information regarding this. And then I'd like to read you the update, which was dated approximately 3 weeks later on March 7th. The first paragraph is essentially the same. February 16th, 6:10 a.m., we responded, found a victim deceased with an apparent gunshot wound. The Redondo Beach Police Department initiated a homicide investigation of the incident based on information provided by the public through RBPD tip line and details identified through our investigation. Redondo Beach police detectives identified a suspect as Alexis Martinez, 29-year-old resident from the city of Inglewood. On Wednesday, March 6th, 2024, Redondo Beach Police Department located Alexis Martinez in the city of Inglewood and placed him under arrest. Martinez was transported to the Redondo Beach Police Department jail, where he was booked for murder and was due to appear for his arraignment on March 8th. Thought that topic was going to come up, so I had that prepared. I'd like to move on to the community policing events and activities. Gardena PD had a diaper drive somewhat impromptu in conjunction with their Coffee with a Cop event. And the captain organizing that event initiated a challenge to the local South Bay agencies to collect and bring diapers to this event, which would then go to Camp Pendleton. For a little frame of reference, they have Camp Pendleton is basically a small city, and they have several. It's a shocking number of babies born every month at Camp Pendleton. So they always take donations of household goods, clothing, furniture, a number of things. Gardena's Rotary was collecting a number of things, and then Gardena took on diapers, challenged the South Bay agencies, and Redondo Beach PD won by a landslide by providing an entire truckload of diapers by the time we were done collecting. And we had to fill our stake bed truck up and drive it over there. We were at the farmer's market. Community Services Unit was at the farmer's market January 25th. We had Coffee with a Cop at the Redondo Union High School on January 29th. Very productive after the incidents that occurred in December. Our first e-bike town hall was on February 8th at 6 p.m. at Alta Vista. Homeless quarters returned to Redondo, and we had one on February 21st at our RBPD annex. We've done several school events, including Career Day, Read Across America at Hermosa View, Job Fair on March 6th, and then we did an additional e-bike town hall at Anderson Park on March 7th. I don't know if anyone made it to the Redondo Beach Police Department Public Safety Open House. It is an event I was throwing, so I assume you were all there. 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. last Sunday, March 10th. a great event where we get to showcase kind of everything we have going on and interact with the community. And there's been a lot of funds that have gone into refurbishing our police station. So we kind of got to show off a lot of the improvements that we've made. And then we've returned to doing our pop-up coffee with the cop on the Esplanade, which is wildly popular, but also somewhat exclusive, ... Because we
I
don't
came
announce.
to one. No, I came to one. I will not be shamed.
We don't announce the pop-up coffee with the cops on the Esplanade, and the idea is it even creates an even more candid kind of interaction with the community down there in Esplanade where there's a lot of foot traffic. Upcoming events, the Community Services Unit will be doing an e-bike safety seminar, trying to target parents and students at the high school auditorium, as well as kind of a Q&A type situation at the end of that. A number of members of our Community Services Unit will be attending a car seat technician training course in April. If you recall, back in the day, it was a pretty common thing for police departments and fire departments to conduct car seat inspections most everywhere, and that slowly dwindled down, probably staffing and overall demand, et cetera, and increases in technology, but the service still exists. I would always refer people to CHP because they still do it. But we're going to have a number of Community Services Unit at Redondo Beach PD that will be car seat certified, car seat technician, they call it, certified. We'll be doing a couple of community events surrounding that. And we will be at the City of Redondo birthday celebration on April, I shouldn't even say the day because you should all know, April 27th, just kidding, 10 a.m. at Dominguez Park. Our volunteer hours obviously have reset for the entire year, but January had 252 and February had 335. The March report wasn't prepared in time. I'm sorry. The December report I had in the December meeting. That doesn't make sense either. What am I trying to say? Hold on one second here.
Do we need
Oh, I'm
data
sorry. Okay.
analysis on this volunteer?
The January report is dated February, 252 hours in January, and the February report dated March 9th, 335 hours for 2 completed months in the year of 2024 so far. And that concludes my spiel for this segment. Is there any questions?
One
or
quick
concerns?
question from me. Is the
Yes.
suspect in the Pier murder still in custody?
That I don't know, actually.
Yes,
He is still in custody.
pick it up.
Thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner Skiba?
I know there was follow-up meetings with the district attorney's office
Yeah.
going on, but as far as I know, I couldn't answer honestly there because I don't know, but
SD.org.
sounds like he looked it up.
Yeah.
The internet's always right, so.
Mr. Skiba?
So how was the turnout at the Run, Hide, Fight?
Our Run, Hide, Fight seminar in January had an attendance, we believe, of about 167. We had 167 signups come in the door. Doesn't mean somebody didn't sneak in and not sign the sheet or what have you. That was about the guesstimate from the Performing Arts Center staff as well, just based on kind of how the crowd filled in. But it was a great turnout, a lot of good feedback, and we'll probably potentially make that once or twice a year regular thing based on the success from the first one, and hopefully get even more people.
Commissioner Kleinbaum, any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. It's such a general question, but I'd like to see an increase in reallocation of city resources to increase the patrol officers' budget. How can that be affected?
That would be like probably budget input when they're determining the fiscal year. I think the city manager visits most commissions for budget input in the months leading up to the big city council final budgeting. So somebody mentioned here that we got authorized last fiscal year budget for 2 additional officers, which are intended to staff our traffic unit. So our traffic unit currently is staffed with 5, and that would bring that to 7. We have 1 long-term injury that's in our traffic unit due to a motorcycle accident, because it's a dangerous position to be on a motorcycle 40 hours a week or more, really, for them. We're authorized for 98. We have 90 set, this is as of our last staff meeting, which is just about 9 days ago. We're authorized for 98. We have 97 employed, but only 74 are deployable. There's other people that are on, not a huge number, but a small handful of people that are on injury, long-term injured, sick leave. And then a good portion of that are academy recruits.
So they're going
In
through.
different phases of the academy. And trainees. I think right now we have 12 trainees. They don't count as being a solo officer contributing to the total numbers deployable until they're off training. But I will say from my experience, having worked at a police department or been associated with one part-time or volunteer since 2005, 6, I've never seen that. I've never seen the full staffing of officers hired at a police department. There's always some sort of catch-up. 2 are going to start, 2 started the academy on March 11th. An additional 3 are going to start the academy in April, and they're looking to do another test in anticipation, just to be even more prepared for any additional vacancies due to retirements, et cetera. December's towards the end of another year is usually a time when retirements go into effect. So the intention is obviously there is an attrition rate because of all the phases of police training and it's high stress and it's intensive training. So that's also why we even though we're full, we still test and try and get hired on, because it's expected that there will be some level of failure. But once all this hiring that we've done in the last 6 to 12 months kind of comes to fruition, which includes laterals, which shortens some of the timelines, then obviously those positions then start to bolster. So you'd see, our motor officers come to a full complement, our detective bureau, which is understaffed, come to a full back up to a full complement. And then eventually, obviously, patrol being at full staffing would be incredible as well.
And we still have the traffic hotline being.
Traffic hotline is still up and running.
Good.
And they field complaints from 7 square miles all day, every day.
Great.
So I have 2 things. Number 1, I feel bad for those car seat officers. I have 4 daughters, and that's like the worst thing ever. Number 2, have you heard of this, the situation with that everyone from the
Yes,
public?
me and John are best friends. No, this has been a project for quite a bit. So we've done a number of directed enforcements, signboards. We've placed decoy, well, it's a real police car, but a vacant police car, just long to try and create at least a perceived increased presence. Tony Magana's intersection is famous. I will say, I am proud to say, Tony, that every single trainee that comes through is aware of that intersection as the intersection we go sit on to write citations. Unfortunately, there's upwards near 1,600 stop signs in the city, and we get similar complaints at nearly every single one of them. I mean, if I had an army of 1,000 people to write people tickets, and speaking from my position as a community-based officer whose job it is to try and gain compliance in the law with everything but writing tickets. Not that I do have to engage in that at times, especially right now with the e-bike thing going on. I usually partner up on the school resource officers' missions because we work in the same office. But I'm getting 150,000 residents and daytime patrons of Redondo Beach to obey every law. If I figure it out, I think I'm going to be a very successful human being in life. But that is my everyday mission. I think about it all day. A stand-up comedian thinks about jokes. and I think about what I can do to reach people to get them to obey the law. And I do tell a lot of jokes, though, too.
You do.
I have a famous segment in my Citizens Academy where I talk about this, and the class runs through a creation of a new police department that's going to get society back onto a entirely peaceful utopia. And this comes up a lot, and there's a lot of self-reflection. There's a lot, I'll make an example. Some of my efforts or our efforts in that engagement forefront, anything besides writing tickets, it's kind of hard to see it come to fruition in the end. But if I can make one example, there's a young man sitting in the crowd right now who attended my Teens in Policing class, and I like to believe that he knows that when he drives around, if I were to see him rolling through a stop sign or speeding inappropriately, he knows there would be extra consequences from a big brother standpoint. So, what's up, Logan? So we constantly put this, short of having an army to deploy, it's 100 sworn police officers, but 75 right now, tackling 70,000 residents and 150,000 daytime residents, probably more nowadays. And there is a meeting, I think you mentioned it, they do have a meeting about the truck routes coming up, some commercial enforcement and things, and I'm going to try and get involved in that because I know they're talking about a number of ideas. And then that's where support from you guys comes in big for like additional training, because sometimes with staffing restrictions comes the inability to attend as much training as we'd like to attend.
I had one comment. I think Commissioner Escontrias probably had a question here, but what's the cost of certifying a motor officer to pull over those trucks to weigh them properly?
You could pull them over. Like if you can be aware of a violation as a cop and pull them over for something. There is a certain aspect to certain commercial violations. And the only reason I know this is because when I was a cadet, one of the officer mentors of mine was on Torrance's commercial enforcement team because they have two commercial enforcement officers. Well, I don't know what they have right now because their staffing is so low, but at their peak, they have two commercial enforcement officers who specialize in that and go to all those trainings, and then they're cleared to enforce a number of violations that exist in that commercial realm. But if there's a violation an officer can be made aware of, see, pull over, and write a ticket for that doesn't require special training, they can do so. So we're only somewhat limited in that sense. Obviously, training is huge because once that officer attends the training class, they're going to be feeling confident about doing and enforcing that, rather than just being told, here's the 3 you can enforce that you don't have to have special training for. Here's the 3 big ones. Look for those 3. And then maybe they pull one over for one of those violations, but they can't even capitalize on additional violations that may be present that they're not trained to see or that they're not qualified to enforce.
Or if, just to wrap up, or if they don't know what they're looking for, it probably takes 3 times longer to do the paperwork to write up what they need to write up according to the.
That would depend on what type of enforcement action you took. Just as an example, if you go to a scene of an accident and there's 2 cars, one of them's at fault for the accident, and you are like, hey, you made, based on all these statements and where the cars are, et cetera, you obviously made an illegal left turn, and that's what I'm gonna write in my traffic collision report. There's a specialized training course that you can go to that would allow you to enforce the violated law with a citation after the fact at the scene of a collision.
Oh, interesting.
That would be like an example of something like requiring training to conduct enforcement on a certain level. But hey, this is, if a commercial vehicle is on this route, they're not allowed to be there. And this is how you identify a commercial vehicle, and you can pull them over and enforce that. Then you do that, you write them the ticket, and then additionally, they're overweight. But you don't have a commercial enforcement trained officer, so he's not gonna pull the scale and weigh each thing and then conduct additional enforcement. That's huge to road safety. But something's better than nothing,
How
I
much does
suppose.
a portable scale cost?
Well, I have no idea. It's like a special one that they drive onto. Just like, it looks like one you'd stand on, but big enough to fit a tire. And and I'm sure there's some sort of specific calibrations to it as well.
Shift or something.
Sorry, I just have one more. Is there like a formal study to quantify this? I know you're saying it happens everywhere, but given we do have the public, talking about it, if based on some historical norms or something, is there some formal study we can identify this? Because that'll like convince the council.
Like if it's worse than other places?
Yeah, like.
Like
if it's just
violations?
What it is. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's specific to that location. Diligent residents would notice for sure that it's, and I mean, it's all over the place. There's probably and I would assume there's huge, complex, nuanced reasons for that, right? In society as a whole.
But is there like, I know in the past you've mentioned like traffic studies or like the police, force does different types of quantification of these traffic.
I mean, there's like tools we have that can provide information. The police department specifically, if you're talking traffic engineer level stuff, that would be like more master's degree and up type of specific education to figure those things out. But like our speed trailer, for example, that we use, collects data and basically says, okay, it was sitting somewhere for 30 days. This many cars were traveling this fast. This many cars were traveling this fast. This many cars were traveling above the speed limit. It says, 2.3% of cars, approximately 8,000 vehicles were traveling, 50 miles and above, 50 miles an hour and above. For some weird reason, there's even among the general public and almost every single driver I know, there's some weird acceptable thing that 5 to 10 miles above the speed limit is acceptable, which is like another weird community engagement phenomenon I'm working on. Because when I drive the speed limit around, let me tell you, I'm public enemy number one to everybody around me. It's just weird because I do it out of principle doing this job. So I can say it in a meeting, not this one per se, but all my neighborhood watch meetings and
The
so on.
4-second stop.
Can we
So,
request that?
I think we deployed the speed trailer on, was it southbound or westbound?
Last one I saw was going southbound on Prospect north of PV Boulevard.
Southbound Prospect north of PV.
Also westbound on Palos Verdes.
We've done it twice.
I noticed it in both those locations.
So that's like, sometimes, I mean, obviously, ideally, 0% cars over the speed limit would be sweet.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've had complaints where we've been able to give the public information like, hey, this is how many cars were traveling this fast, this is how many cars were traveling this fast. And I don't know if there's an acceptable level on our, right? But if the lower, the better, I would assume in general. And that can kind of give us information on how much weight certain complaints carry, I suppose.
Yeah. Because I mean,
But also we want to respond, if there's another intersection where people are generally going faster than the speed limit, but nobody's complaining. I mean, there's still relevance in the fact that the law is being violated, but we want to be responsive to citizens. And that's why, it's not like John is getting some sort of special treatment from the police department just because we've sent, shifts out there and directed enforcement by our motor units and additional overtime shifts specifying that area, conducting, traffic violations, stops, and so on. There's relevance in a police department response to responding to complaints and trying to address the issues. Unfortunately, this one is just hugely prevalent all over. There's an overall decline altogether in all of Los Angeles County in number of traffic citations issued. COVID, I'm sure, had something to do with that when the roads were empty and we were trying to contact as few people as possible for an entire 9-month stretch where we were literally like, it has to be a very serious emergency for us to intervene because we're trying not to spread, this unknown disease.
Right.
And there's a whole community perception of law enforcement that has probably had a psychological effect on law enforcement officers across the country and decreased an interest or at least had some sort of psychological impact on conducting enforcement on a regular hard, basis out of response to, I mean, we had George Floyd, you name it, in police incident drama over the years that could have an impact on the level of willingness to engage in a self-initiated activity like a traffic stop, which the traffic stop in and of itself has been scrutinized by criminal justice reformers and so on. But, we do our best to address the issues and with the resources that we have.
Yeah. Commissioner Escontrias, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, what concerns me is, one, that they have to come in here, especially someone who hangs up where some dispatcher suddenly is trying to play police officer to determine what the laws are. Okay. I don't see this as a traffic issue. I see it as a police issue, public safety. In a sense, when we're talking about their issue for now. Okay. In a sense, it's not just traffic officers citing people. It's anyone and everyone citing for that. You don't have to be a traffic officer to pull anybody over to do anything. I get that part. What I also look at from the psychological aspect, I do understand it. I'm well aware of that as well. But I don't believe this community is anti-police in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, I guarantee you that if you said I needed 5 motorcycles, they probably went out and gathered to get it to do that for that. Okay. My concern is deployment as we look at that, the number of traffic officers and how they're deployed and when they're deployed. Because most people are well aware of the idea that there's some traffic officers who don't work on certain days. Okay. Which I think is where some of the problems come in. I do also understand that when you throw out a big net to catch a bunch of fish, you do get a few dolphins. So more than likely what's going to occur is that you or I or anyone else who comes through here may get caught ourselves and get a ticket. What bothers me is a little more is the reluctance of enforcement. Okay, as I said before, and I think Manhattan Beach put this very succinctly in saying, we've tried the carrot, now we work the stick. Okay, and the issue comes up is that it's enforcement. Writing tickets, that's all they're gonna understand, that's all we have at this point. Begging people to stop. Person's gotta get run over. So I think one of the biggest things I've been here in 25 years in Redondo is the idea is they like to do a study, and then when the study doesn't look good, they do the study of the study to try to study it again. The only study I believe we need to look at is a man got injured. Probably about 500 other people near misses.
Yeah.
Okay? So I think this is more of a, and I hate to put it this way, but a leadership issue. It's somebody directed patrol, officer, you will drive out there and you will sit there for 8 hours and you will come back with as many tickets as you believe necessary. And the issue, some people don't like, it's not a quota system, I'm not pulling quotas, but my understanding, just like with the specialized units, the skid, okay, my wife was a traffic officer. She knows how to do all that stuff, and things like that. It does require stuff. But I think somebody getting people's minds right, okay, of writing a citation every once in a while, then the reputation is such that people are gonna say, if I'm gonna speed, I'm going all the way around. Because we had this issue on Prospect for a long time. What did we have? Six car wrecks in within a 3-month time frame. Directed enforcement was there. People started getting their minds right and they were going up and down. We haven't had one in probably about 9 or 10 months like that. It's unfortunate that we sometimes have to get out there and scare the hell out of people. But I don't want to have anyone coming in here saying, well, we woulda, coulda, shoulda, and let's study this again and let's write all this up and do it that way. So again, the issue comes down to is I believe anyway, is that when we have a complaint that we address it, we look at it and then make everybody aware of it. So if every boot or every probationary officer is aware of that, then why aren't they carrying that 5 years, 10 years, 15 years later and to say, hey, let's do this? Now, I'm well aware of the fact that many people believe that traffic enforcement is money generation. It is. It can be. But when you get motor cops who are specialized, and that's what they do, that's what they're directed to do, okay? They should be doing quite a bit of it. Now, I'm well aware of the lawsuits saying that you don't tell a motor cop, go out there and come back with 25 tickets because now it's a quota system. But if a motor cop is walking in every day with 1 citation, that's all he's writing, that's a leadership issue. Okay? And then maybe he needs to go back to patrol.
Thank you, Commissioner Escontrias. Did you want to respond?
Well, I want to clarify, there's no reluctance of enforcement.
Well, no, you said right now is that you don't really want to write a ticket.
When did I say I don't want to write a ticket?
You said citation.
That's erroneous.
Okay.
So I want to clarify that.
Well, if I'm wrong, I
Now
apologize.
you've got my
but-
game face on, Gil. There's no reluctance of enforcement. We're talking about a 7 square mile city.
Okay,
I don't know the number of streets, but if you look at a city map, the grid is pretty substantial through and through throughout the city. Repeatedly, there's been directed enforcement with citations sent to that area. Now, when I covered my area of expertise when it comes to community engagement on policing, I was just speaking of my own actions in my own division and my own vision and mission of my personal position at the police department.
okay.
Now, not only is there 4 motor officers right now who have to cover an entire city fielding complaints of this nature, on top of information going out to every patrol officer, there is 5 patrol officers on a shift typically. So 1 officer handles Area 1, which is essentially everything south of Torrance Boulevard. There's a little like Oklahoma panhandle in both directions for Area 2. Then you have Area 2 that covers everything north of Torrance Boulevard to 190th. Area 3 and 4, Area 3 is kind of the 190th to Grant general area, and then 4 and 5 split the remaining end of the north end that goes all the way up to Marine. So on top of responding to calls all day, every day, on top of, I understand what your opinion of quotas is.
It's case law.
Right? They're not legal in the state of California. There is a leadership factor to having productive employees in a unit, obviously, and I have no doubt that our traffic unit is productive in that sense. The only reason I say anything about the overall sentiment towards law enforcement and how that may impact it, that's just me speculating on a number of combined nuances that may be contributing to what we see is, it seems like everybody's breaking the law nowadays when they see fit.
I agree with you 100%, sir.
So, aside from having more resources, I want to assist John and everyone in this neighborhood more than anybody. I reached out to John and I wanted him to start a neighborhood watch group so I could get everybody involved in the community. I want them all to go to the Citizens Police Academy. And I think I've made that clear on a fairly regular basis. So there is no reluctance of enforcement. It's barring calling in the National Guard and having 100 people at my disposal to catch every violation. Because if you sit there just like they do, it's nearly everybody doing something. Nobody stops at stop signs. I've sat at every single problem stop sign in this city. I've spent 2 to 3 hours sitting on because I need to be able to explain that when people come to my meetings for Neighborhood Watch and all these other areas where I have vocal, caring residents that want to contribute to me and share what their complaints are. So that was just speculation. I want to just make clear that there's no reluctance of enforcement. And unless
You're good. You're good.
unless there's more solution in the realm of staffing, we do the best we can, and we do it in multiple ways, not just officiously as much as, you know, the old school ways where kind of just, hey, we go out and we be officious and we don't care what people think about us. We're taking on different aspects. I got a lot of flack for a recent social media video where I'd like to clarify that it took me 15 minutes to do the whole thing.
Not Shoegate.
But Shoegate, where I found a shoe. I jokingly posted a video looking for the owner, thought it would be funny. We found the owner. We made a goofy video about returning the shoe. I don't know if that has an impact with that little girl for the rest of her life. And maybe she's not one to run stop signs and drive like a jerk when she's a teenager. But I do want to clarify that from the police department side, I don't think there's an issue with any reluctance to enforce laws. We're dealing with a lot.
Commissioner Skiba, then Commissioner
Crazy.
Gupta, and then Commissioner Carmichael. Thank you, Officer Lostrom.
Thank you. I know you're short-staffed. But we have some people who think they're NASCAR drivers.
I agree.
It's a nightmare on Artesia, on Slauson Lane, which is a turnoff street on the way to Grant. All hours of the day and night, cars, motorcycles, pickup trucks, speeding, and it's like a 1 block and then a stop sign, 1 block and a stop sign. And they're tearing off out of there, like 0 to 60 in like a second. And it's loud and it's dangerous because we have all these dog walkers, mommies with baby strollers and all, and joggers and all this. And then Grant and aviation, it's terrible. I mean, it's almost frightening sometimes to drive because they will try to almost drive you off the road, these guys. I know it's hard for you guys to be everywhere, but I don't know. Spike strips. I'm kidding.
I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't be effective. As if to illustrate my point, though, we get it from you just go door to door, and I've done that too. Everyone's like, this crazy, everyone that lives by Perry Park is like, I see every problem at Perry Park. And that's not even traffic related. That's all the little kids that want to go there and we're playing a giant game of shuffle, trying to address complaints and be proactive. And we still have a lot of guys that want to go out and catch felons before they commit 15 catalytic converter thefts in one night, from the patrol side. So I care. I live on Avenue G, and I walk 2 little toddlers right by Prospect and Avenue G, where nobody stops ever. So it's
Commissioner Gupta?
crazy. It's crazy out there.
So I just want to first say I really respect what you do, Officer Lostrom.
Thank you.
And before I joined this commission, I didn't have as, a nuanced idea of policing, and the fact that how you approach it systemically, like in all these meetings, you express that. And I've seen the fire chief and the police chief, and I'm just very grateful to live in this community where you guys think of this issue like this. So I just want to really put that out there. I really respect how you guys do try to think of a much more complex, solution than like the old school way that does have a lot of downsides to it. I think in this particular case, data is useful because yes, you're right that like the speed limit is broken, but there must be like 1%, 2%, 3% on the tail end, one standard deviation. Like some intersections must be worse than others.
For sure.
Right? So if we can quantify that, then that's where the resources can go. So at least in this particular solution, like this situation, it sounds like this thing, the machine was there, the reader, the sensor was there multiple times. If we can get the data, and if compared to other intersections historically, if it's like 15% more, 30% more, that validates what they're saying, and that could, be very useful.
Even the data we collected usually shows some level of validity.
And I think
just to be clear, we're not like, oh, it's low enough.
Yeah.
We want 0 just as much as everybody wants 0.
Well, yeah,
we typically get,
sure.
But we do that as a transparency thing. And hey, this is what we're looking at, and we're gonna, enforce. And let's see if in 6 months or a year's time, where we're out here more regularly, if that goes down to, even if it's at, I think the last one I saw was like 2.3 was, plus 10 miles over. And let's see if we can get that down to 1% or something, right? Like I don't know.
But if if 2.3 or whatever
Now
is
I'm just
like the
speculating,
standard, but then this particular intersection is like 10 more than that,
No,
right?
right.
Then,
yeah.
but that could also we have to accept all the resources we have, and
Right, yeah.
But there are other solutions like the roundabout or speed bumps. So I guess
Infrastructure
this
is big.
Yeah, like the built environment. So I guess I don't know if this is a call to action, but if we can get that data so we can present it to the council, I think that seems a way to reconcile kind of like.
That'd be good for referrals to staff.
Yeah.
Well stated. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Gupta. Commissioner Carmichael?
I hear my grandmother telling me to be brief, so give me a second to do that.
5 seconds.
Okay, so a few things. One, I'm going to take a bit of a contrarian point of view. I want the community to come to these meetings. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you know experientially, right? I can gather all the data, but that's academic. The experience is what we're trying to address. And that's why the quality of life unit has been put together. The second thing that I'd like to make sure that we do is saddle you with the right tools, which is why you're hearing from me. Don't hear me not being empathetic or commiserating, because I'm not also being angry or frustrated. That's not it. I'm solutions oriented. So here are the tools, and here's the language, and here's how they speak. Here's the meeting that already came up at. Here is what we do as a body, and here's how we can support you. So that's what I want you to hear. And I also want you to come to get that, right? So, and I certainly don't want to sit here and criticize, because I don't know that that's helpful either. It's clear we know what the problem is, right? So I don't know that we have to spend the whole night reiterating, because when you leave, then what, right? So I hope your key takeaway is not that we are also angry, not that we also know the street name, that we also know, like those are in my view, tertiary. It's really about understanding what it is that you want us to help with, not necessarily to do, but also letting you know that we are intimately aware of the infrastructure that can accomplish the goal, right? So if you're saying you want X, then we know, and I point this way because during city council meetings, staff sits here. So when the gentleman talked about, what is it? The love bumps, what is it? I don't know, the speed bumps,
Speed cushions.
Speed cushions. He sat over there. So I know that there is a thing that they will say yes and immediately say yes to. And so that's one of the things. So I really want your key takeaways to be, you were heard, right? There's two things, acknowledgement and appreciation, right? So appreciate you coming. I always want you to know that. Appreciate you coming, appreciate your voices, appreciate your point of view, appreciate your perspective. And I also appreciate your frustration, right? So I also want to, and the acknowledgement part is we're acknowledging our part. We're acknowledging what we can do. And we also want you to acknowledge, okay, I heard you, right? So you're saying send an email to quality of life. Yes, because that is a data point for us we can reference. Use the app because that's a data point for us and we can reference. And then collectively, we can get, at least get it on the board. Like I said, when they review the budget, there's 61 items on there. If we can get on the board, that's an advancement, right? And then whatever you all do from a police department perspective, I certainly know where Chief Hoffman's head is from a leadership perspective. I also know that when you call the watch commander, they action, even if the respective knucklehead does not. So it's going to take all of us collectively moving the ball forward, not standing at the water cooler just complaining, right? Because, that's cute and that's fun and it's anecdotal.
A candle, just be that candle, but maybe 1,000 candles will make it right. But anyway, we're gonna close J2 pretty soon. Final comment from Commissioner Skiba, and thank you, Commissioner Carmichael. You've been acknowledged as well.
Kyle Lofstrom, I wanted to tell you how much I enjoyed Citizens Police Academy, and I just encourage everybody to take that course because it is absolutely fabulous, wonderful. You couldn't have a better time, make a lot of new friends. Enjoy this fella here. He's so talented and gifted. He could charm the birds out of the trees, but he's putting on such a nice welcoming face for the RBPD, really. And also,
That's not the only reason you should go, though. It's extremely important. Very good program.
Also, I mentioned earlier the Run, Hide, Fight. And it's a special seminar that they put on recently, and he said this evening they're going to be doing them again. That's for the residents to go and find out how to defend yourself and what to do if you're in a situation in a public area where all of a sudden there's something very dangerous taking place. And you have to know what to do. Otherwise, you could be like the deer in the headlights. And it's great. He puts that on. It was a wonderful seminar. I encourage you all to go if you have a chance. And I think that the shoe gate was hilarious.
It was?
It was really cute. Okay, thanks, my dear.
We'll close J2. Is that correct, Officer Lost? Any
Yes.
final comments?
For just information for referral consideration, I have 2 still on my docket that I haven't covered.
Okay, great.
Really 3. I was planning to do the 3rd, but we got a little in depth on my subject. I was planning to do one, but I'm trying to coordinate from our lieutenant who's in charge of our wellness program. He ended up being unavailable this meeting. My intention was for him to be here.
Oh, that would be a good
And
one.
then I'd still like to have a representative at some point from Harbor Interfaith, as was voted on in one of the previous meetings,
Great.
and to cover the city website, or at least the police department part of the city website. So those are on my current docket that I'm trying to make arrangements for the upcoming meetings, before you add a truckload to my workload.
You better weigh it first, but before we go around the bend here, I wanted to make a motion or see if there's a motion that I can take John's emails, all the attachments, and have you distribute it to all the commissioners for review. And if I hear a motion, that's great, however you want to work with that.
He distributed them to you?
Yes, I have data from John. I didn't want to send it to the commission because it's a violation of the Brown Act without being agendized.
Oh, okay.
I'm happy to send those over to you, and then we have a motion to send them to each commissioner.
Yeah, give them to me.
Yes, sir.
Do you have hard copies of those, John? Or do you? Those, I got more of like an agenda kind of format on what you were going to cover.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I had sent him, but they requested all the communication I've had, which I can get together, hard copy, email, or whatever you want.
Yeah, just email it.
Since August, I've got emails.
Thanks, John. And then I would make another agenda or another motion to agendize a discussion on traffic data per John's email information for the April meeting, if possible. Would anybody like to edit or second that motion or start a motion for it? Second it, okay.
Who made the initial motion?
It would be me, but if you need a
Commissioner
commissioner.
Gall.
Yep.
Second by Commissioner Skiba. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unopposed? Very good.
Let's go around the bend here. Commissioner Escontrias, do you have any referrals to staff?
No, sir.
Commissioner Kleinbaum?
No.
Commissioner Skiba?
No.
Not even about the self-defense? Nothing?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Yes, I would like them to bring up the subject of the self-defense class put on by the police department, which they did about maybe 2 years ago, and then they haven't done it since. But there's a possibility that it still might be under consideration. Hasn't been all decided yet, and I know that liability was an issue. But just as a side note, I recently attended a women's self-defense class at El Segundo Police Department. It was 4 hours. It was very chock full of all kinds of self-defense training.
How many participants?
There were about 25 or so participants and 4 officers in a very large space. So we got tons of input and correction while we were doing it. And they had we signed a little, waiver when we entered the room. But it was fantastic. Nobody got hurt. Nobody couldn't perform the moves. It was wonderful. And I'm hoping that we're going to have that here at Redondo. And by the way, I understand that Beach City's Health District has now partnered with Manhattan Beach Police Department to try to put forth such classes too. So I'm hoping we'll be able to jump on board with, I think our own would be great, but it would be just wonderful. I wanted to mention that. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion for a consideration for a training class, or should we discuss this in detail, or is this something that we should just have Commissioner Skiba?
I'll give you a call,
Okay,
Is that fair
because there's
enough?
some stuff I found out that I want to discuss with you.
okay,
Cool.
thanks.
Cool. Commissioner Kleinbaum, go ahead.
I just wanted to go back about something of concern to me. The e-bikes, I don't know if that's already been
It's
beat to
never,
death.
you can bring it back
Okay,
anytime.
it's just my observation. I walk my dog for hours every day, and I see these e-bikes, and they have like a complete, and for the most part, a complete and total disregard for all traffic laws and their
Right.
use. And it's a big problem.
So just information, if you noticed in the community events, there's a ton of feedback gathering going on. So city council is going to take this up again in May with a ton of feedback from the police department and, other whatever other parties are involved in determining big city council stuff. So I'd definitely get involved in the upcoming meetings.
Yep.
Because they're going to prepare a staff report, I think, at the end of April.
And there's a
for-
partnership with the school board as well.
For a May meeting to address it, and school board meetings, because the school has at least in my discussions with members of the, employees of the school district administration, they have ideas that they're working through the red tape right now that would eventually go all the way up to school board level, so.
There's a subcommittee. There's like 2 people from city council. There's people from the school board and all, like, they are all, the pilot program that they're looking at is something similar to one of the other beaches where they give them a training course and then you get a sticker for your bike. So like, there's a whole activity going on, and it's moving forward. Like, it's not like, oh, we're going to meet and talk about it. They're actually taking some steps. So.
There was a nice South Bay Bicycle Coalition. I hope they can be better utilized in the future for this type of stuff. But go ahead, Commissioner Gupta.
So I'm not sure if we can ask for another study to be placed or at least get the data from the machines that were already placed there
I think that's actually in a previous agenda, so I can find it for you and send it to you.
for the intersection. Okay.
Can I add to that? I don't know if we need a motion, but can we, at some point, Chief Reagan, bring your data specialist to pick her brain on various types of traffic-related conundrums and try to get some answers, or maybe a brief PowerPoint on some of the things that your department looks at? Or would you need that agendized or maybe scheduled a month or 2 out? That would be quite a wonky meeting, but I think take some preparation on your side.
Traffic or calls?
Yeah, in the severity and how they're growing over certain, the traumatic or
Okay,
take
okay.
to the hospital and things like that. And then, also affected by visitors or transients, or there's a cat in the tree, or there's a water leak. How can we break that down, and how bad is the problem of the number of calls and the severity of the calls getting over the years, or is it just kind of minutia? It would be interesting to take a look at that with a data analyst.
I think you're looking for CAD data? For CAD data, right?
I don't know,
I think you're talking to 2 different.
Yeah,
Fire.
that's what I was
It'd be
calling
for-
it
It'd
out.
be
like-
for fire,
Fire-wise.
yes,
You're asking,
yes.
maybe the first step is just send me an email of what you're looking for.
Sure.
And then I can get Jacob, our data analyst, is very useful.
Okay,
Yeah, give me a better picture of what you're looking for and I'll start doing that.
does anybody have anything to add to the type of data they want collected? Because I know we were talking
I
about it.
asked earlier about the nurse specialist.
The nurse
Is this part of
specialist.
this
Yeah,
too?
that's 2 different, like
Yeah,
Jacob is brand new, and he's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
a data analyst.
Administrative analyst,
Right.
has a background
And-
in data, is advanced master's.
Yes, so that's one set of,
Yeah.
but you want specifically
The
the
nurse specialist.
nurse specialist, so that's 2 different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, you just got, I would probably need parameters of exactly what you're looking for,
Yep.
because the way it's kind of all over the place.
exactly.
That makes
You're
sense.
looking for specific chief complaints on medical aids or what we're getting, or, percentage of calls and increase per year, percentage of traumatic calls, like, I can't just grab everything from the air.
I think for the nurse specialist, what he or she does with the data and how they categorize it and what their statistical methods are, what do they do with that data?
Really, so I could
Yeah.
ask some questions about that, but that's
Yeah.
probably not gonna give me.
I don't mean to be partisan on this, but may I suggest a subcommittee on data analysis for the duration of 1 meeting or 2 meetings, and put Commissioner Gupta and Commissioner Carmichael on it, and have you work with the fire department to get all the questions, parameters designed? Would you be interested, gentlemen, in doing that?
So moved.
Yeah.
Anybody asleep yet? Okay, great. Do we want to take a roll call on that?
yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna have to get with the city clerk's office, so I know
Sure.
how that works parliamentarily.
I've heard it has to be done on a temporary basis. It cannot forever be a subcommittee. It would
Yeah.
be, so for the
There's-
duration of 1 meeting or until Chief Reagan goes ahead and gets the people here, then the subcommittee after that meeting, it vanishes. It's gone.
I
Yeah.
understand that the subcommittees can be as long as the duration as you choose them to be, not just necessarily one.
No, he
The
was
city
just putting the
attorney was
parameters.
pretty,
Sunset.
Yeah, he's just going to put it on there. It's not, yeah.
yeah.
But if you
You're saying
want
the
to go
same thing.
longer.
Yeah. It can't be for forever, but yeah.
And that would enable you to, after we discuss the parliamentary procedures, to go ahead and confer with Chief Reagan about these types of things offline. And then there wouldn't be a violation of the Brown Act, you know, if we have like 5 people emailing all this stuff and so on and so forth. So let us know how that works, and then we can get to having some intelligent conversation. And then I would also say, Friends of the Beach Cities Health District would love to join your National Night Out event at the,
Oh, they're already on my list, Jeff.
we're already at, okay. So does anybody,
I
and
didn't
thank
get an
you.
email.
Yeah, they want the Adventureplex back for the kids, you know? Are there any other final comments or questions? Nothing?
Final comment.
Yes, sir.
Seriously, thank you all for being here and thank you for staying. You know, we get caught in the minutia, but I hope that you see that we are going to take action. So thank you so much for being here. Seriously, appreciate it.
Meeting adjourned at 9:01. Thank you, Commissioner Carmichael.
Cheers.